Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. When a mother claims her child has been abducted from his bedroom, but the fingers start pointing at the mother herself, she's going to defend herself in words. But are those words believable? Was her son stolen away from her like she claims, or was she more deeply involved in his disappearance?
Did you have anything to do with it?
Absolutely not.
I
would be sitting here, and I have not pointed the finger at anyone whatsoever. And even after, because I know for a fact we're going to find him, even afterwards, I really don't care about the people involved. I don't know.
You just want him back?
Absolutely.
Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said to use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing deception, the truth, and the motivations of a person. Now, this case was the winner of my Win Your Own episode of Never a Truer Word. It was selected by Lisa, and Lisa says, I would like to suggest an analysis of the statements made by Melinda Duckett. Melinda was the mother of Trenton Duckett, a boy who went missing at the age of 2 in 2006. Melinda claimed that she put Trenton down to sleep in his bedroom in the evening, and 2 hours later, when she returned to check on him, he was gone. The screen of his bedroom window had been cut, and Melinda told police that he had been abducted from their home. Trenton has never been located, and the case remains unsolved. Melinda was interviewed on Nancy Gracie's TV show within 2 weeks of Trenton's disappearance. The day after this, Melinda died via a self-inflicted gunshot wound. She left 3 different notes. Then Lisa says, on a personal note, I'm also interested in this case because I knew Melinda Duckett, then known as Mindy Eubanks, as a young child. We attended the same elementary school before she moved to Florida. This personal connection has had me following the case closely, and I hope this case will be solved. Sadly, I do not believe Trenton is alive, but either way, I wish for answers for his family and loved ones. Thanks for reading, Lisa. Now, Lisa, thank you for suggesting this analysis because it really is a fascinating one. We're going to look at some interviews that Melinda gave and see if we can see whether she's telling the truth or not just by analysing the words that Melinda uses. Well, what I'm going to be looking for here is avoidance. When she's asked a question, and she's asked some quite direct questions in some of the interviews we're going to see, does she just give a genuine, straightforward answer to those questions, or does she talk about something else? Does she just go off and not quite deal with the question that she's asked? Avoidance, that would be. And also look for prepared storytelling. That's when she's got a narrative in her head that she may well have made up that she wants to tell. In fact, it's so important that she tells this story that it overrides everything else, everything she's asked, and the nuances of what it is she's talking about. If we see some of those, we might think this woman is hiding something. If we see none of those, then maybe this is a truthful woman and the fingers were being pointed at her unfairly. Are you ready to dive in then to the words of Melinda Duckett? Let's go.
Until he is back at the house with me and this is over, then I can't possibly be doing enough with everything. And honest to goodness, I don't think anybody else is either. It's just because it's so frustrating. I know that there's so many people working and so many people concerned with everything, but it's just because I'm his mom that I don't know.
Can you even put into words how hard this has been?
Well, I was doing really good when I was talking to him until I saw one of the other kids over here, and I don't know. And through everything, I've been keeping, composure with everything and doing really well in the spotlight.
So what are your thoughts listening just to that very first answer from Melinda? I don't know the question that was asked to get the very first words. It was just not on that video. But she does start by saying, until he is back at the house with me and this is over, then I can't possibly be doing enough with everything. Now, that very first line, until he is back at the house with me and this is over. That's very good for her. That's very hopeful. That doesn't show any guilty knowledge or anything like that at all. The very first thing I hear is reassuring. Until he is back at the house with me and this is over. Feels like there's nothing hidden in there. Feels like she is hopeful. Now, we've got this stutter on the I that comes next. Then, I can't possibly be doing enough with everything. Now, when we stutter, especially on the word I, it might mean that we've got some nerves about saying what comes next. Why would we have nerves about saying what comes next? If it's not true, we might have nerves about joining ourselves in that word I to what comes next, which is why we might stutter I. Now, I'm not going to point out every stutter Melinda makes as we go through this episode because she makes a lot of stutters. It seems to be almost like a baseline of talking for her. It's maybe something that she's learned to do. If she's not a very confident speaker, it gives her time to think if she stutters on words like I and. But it does suggest that we have some lack of confidence in the words here when she's stuttering with this I. She says, I can't possibly be doing enough with everything, and honest to goodness, I don't think anybody else is here. She stutters, not me. And honest to goodness, I don't think anybody else is here. So, got this honest to goodness coming there. If you're a regular here, you'll know that when someone flags up they are being honest, then that is a bit of a red flag. Why do they feel the need to tell us that they are being honest? Now, she's only done it once, so I ain't going to go, oh, this means she's guilty and lying because she's flagged up her honesty, but it's a data point. Honest to goodness, why is she flagging up her honesty here? Is it because she is lying and she really wants us to believe she's being honest, or is it because everything else has been a lie and this is the truth and she wants to flag up this is the truth because it's different from everything she says? We don't know, but I'm going to look at that there. And I don't really understand what she's saying there. I think she's saying that nothing is going to be good enough until he comes back, but it's very much word salad going on there. She stutters again. I know there's so many people working and so many people concerned with everything. And she does this, so many people and everything. You know, everybody else was doing things. Anybody else is doing things, not doing enough with everything. She's gone to great big lengths here. It's very big words, the everything, so many people. However, it's kind of lacking in meaning when she goes to these big words, and there's so many stutters. But it's because I'm his mom. I don't know. I just really don't know what she's saying there. Now, here's the first question that we hear being asked in this interview with her. Can you even put into words how hard this has been? And she says, well, I was doing really good when I was talking to him until I saw one of the other kids over there. Now, I think talking to him is maybe talking to another reporter, and she's in a park, so one of the other kids is maybe in a park. So what she's saying there is, I was all right when I was talking to that reporter, and then I saw a kid and I sort of fell apart. All very understandable. However, it doesn't answer the question, was can you put into words how hard this has been? So this is how hard it's been since you found your son missing. It must have been terrible. And what she said was, I was doing really good when I was talking to that reporter over there. So she's narrowed the timeline down from not how hard this has been since it happened. She's narrowed it down to how hard has it been doing interviews in this park this afternoon, by the looks of things. I saw one of those other kids over there, and I don't know. And though through everything, I've been keeping, composture with everything and doing really well in the spotlight. That word composture isn't a real word. I think she meant composure. We all misspeak. Look, in the course of this episode, I'm bound to misspeak, call someone the wrong name or something like that. We all misspeak at times. I ain't going to pull her up for saying composture when I think she meant composure. I will pull her up for, I've been doing really well in the spotlight. Now, she's been asked how hard this is, having your child disappear, your 2-year-old child stolen from your house, and she can't tell us that. She's certainly not telling us how concerned she is about her son. She's not telling us how worried she is or how alone she feels or anything like that. What she's saying is she's doing really well in the spotlight. Interesting. Why is that? possibly that she realizes that these are the high pressure moments. If she has been involved in Trenton's disappearance, then what will be high priority in her mind is not cracking in these interviews, not saying the wrong thing, i.e. doing really well in the spotlight, the words she uses. So I really don't like that there. A mother of a missing child asked how you're doing, and she says, I'm doing really well in the spotlight. So that's the first part of that there. What have I got so far? I see some things that were all right, that she seems to have some hope, but also this focus of her being in the spotlight and not really answering the questions, but talking in this real big jumble that's going on. Open mind, I think, so far, but certainly some data points that I don't like. That spotlight one, I really didn't like. Let's get some more now from Melinda.
You tell me what you've been doing to try to keep yourself together during all this.
Honest to goodness, I can't sit and just constantly roll over the same things. It gets extremely depressing. I actually have to physically be proactive and be helping with something and doing something. He had asked me about, why am I not sitting down at the police station, this and that. The police, they have a limited amount of experience with this. They have,
You want to turn it off?
Yeah,
put it
I
on vibrate
know.
or something?
I'm sorry.
It's kind of...
Okay, now I've got a few more concerns. She is asked there, tell me what you've been doing to try to keep yourself together during all of this. Let's read her full answer. Honest to goodness, I can't sit there and just constantly roll over the same things. It gets extremely depressing. I actually have to physically be proactive and be helping with something and doing something. Let me just take the stutters out there so we can understand it a little bit more. Honest to goodness, I can't sit and just constantly roll over the same things. It gets extremely depressing. I actually have to physically be proactive and helping with something and doing something. Now, she starts with that honest to goodness again. That's the second time she's telling us how honest she is being. Again, it goes against her for me. And then she says, I can't sit and just constantly roll over the same things. But she doesn't tell us what she does. She tells us what she's not doing there. So when she's asked, what are you doing to keep yourself together? She tells us what she can't do. She does say it gets extremely depressing. And then she says, I actually have to physically be proactive, be helping with something and doing something. But she doesn't say that's what she's been doing. She just talks in a general sense here. So we've got some question avoidance going on there. She doesn't tell us what she has been doing. She talks in a general sense about what she can't do, which is sit there and roll over the same things. And she says she has to be physically proactive, helping with something and doing something. But she doesn't say, I have been proactive. I have been helping with something. I have been doing something. She just says, I have to be these things, but she doesn't say she has been doing those things. She then goes on to say, he had asked about, why am I not sitting down at the police station, this and that. The police, they have a limited amount of experience with this. They have, now this is extra. She was asked the question, which was, what have you been doing to try to keep yourself together during all of this? And she goes and talks about what someone, which I think might be Trenton's dad, who Melinda was separated from, he has asked about, why am I not sitting down at the police station? Now, this is an extra to the answer. It was not being asked for. She's decided to volunteer it. It's obviously something that is on her mind, and she wants to get it out here. So this tells us what is going on inside her head. It's sort of leakage as to her thoughts, and that is that the pressure is on her about why she is not, I think, helping more. But that's not how she says it. She says that he wants to know, why am I not sitting down at the police station? Well, that is not helping. That is actually sitting down at the police station, maybe answering questions that need to be answered. So, right, I came out of the first one thinking open mind. I'm now finding more reasons to think, what is going on here? She was thinking about she's doing quite well in the spotlight. She doesn't tell us what she has been doing to cope or get through with this since Trenton disappeared. And she also has this thought that she should be sitting down at the police station. So I'm starting to go, Melinda, what is it you're saying? I need to hear some more from Melinda.
People who are critical of you, who say she doesn't seem to care, she doesn't seem emotional, what do you say to
Actually, kind of, I wish I wasn't sitting here right now. I just hadn't gotten done with all that. Gosh.
I mean, as a mom, you got to be going crazy. Can you put into words for people how this has impacted your life?
Everything's upside down. But if I don't keep myself together, at least during the day, keeping in contact with the authorities, particularly the FBI, answering any questions that I have, participating in absolutely everything that I possibly get my hands on as far as they go, then I'm not doing any good. And I have to be doing something to help with him.
Did you have anything to do with it?
Absolutely not.
It's...
I would be sitting here, and I have not pointed the finger at anyone whatsoever. And even after, because I know for a fact we're going to find him, even afterwards, I really don't care about the people involved. I don't know.
You just want him back.
Absolutely.
So much in there. Let's dig into it. People who are critical of you, who say she doesn't seem to care, she doesn't seem emotional, what do you say to that? And Melinda's answer is actually kind of, I wish I wasn't sitting here right now. I just hadn't gotten done with all that. Gosh. I do not know what the answer to the question is. People who are critical of you say she doesn't seem to care, she doesn't seem emotional. What do you say to that? Actually, kind of, so not even fully, kind of, I wish I wasn't sitting here right now. I just hadn't gotten done with all that. Gosh, it's real, not a robust rebuttal there of what is put to her at all. And it gets worse as we go through this. The interviewer says, I mean, as a mom, you've got to be going crazy. Can you put into words for people how this has impacted your life? A very, very direct question. And she says, everything's upside down. So we do have an answer to the question. How has this impacted on your life? Everything's upside down. So therefore, I get it. She has actually answered the question. And look, whether she is innocent or guilty, I do guess when your child is no longer there and that's unexpected, then everything will be upside down. Then she says, but if I don't keep myself together, at least during the day, keeping in contact with the authorities, particularly the FBI, answering any questions that I have, participating in absolutely everything that I can possibly get my hands on as far as they go, then I'm not doing any good and I have to be doing something. Once again, we've got this big general answer. She doesn't say that what I've been doing is I have been keeping in contact with the authorities. I have been talking to the FBI. I have been answering any questions that they have. I have been participating in absolutely everything I can do. She doesn't say that. She just talks in this general terms again. She says, if I don't keep myself together, now keeping yourself together is just a thought there. Why does she need to keep herself together? This is very similar to holding it together in the spotlight. So again, words that come out in this one of the first things that she mentions reveal her priorities inside her head. And her priority doesn't seem to be finding Trenton, finding out what happened to Trenton, finding out who's got Trenton or who made something happen to Trenton at all. Her priority is holding it together. And she says, I have to keep myself together, at least during the day. And then we just have this big general thing. So she's not saying what she's done. She's just talking in a general sense, keeping in contact with the authorities, particularly the FBI, answering any questions that I have, participating in absolutely everything I can possibly get my hands on as far as they go. We've got these big terms again, participating in absolutely everything. So she said no to anything at all, in her words. Not very believable, but she wants to show how big it is that she's been doing things, although she hasn't actually saying that she's doing these things. She's just talking in these general terms. Everything I can possibly get my hands on as far as they go. That phrase, I can possibly get my hands on. Now that is quite a phrase of action, getting your hands on something. She's not saying everything I can do, it's everything I can get my hands on. That phrase to me says, did she get her hands on Trenton? Is that why that wording is coming out there? Everything I can possibly get my hands on. I don't like it. And I'm seeing now, as the interview goes on and she's less composed, I see less and less data points that I like from Melinda and seeing more things that worry me, especially these general terms. She's being asked direct questions and she's not giving us direct answers. She is just talking in very vague general terms. She says, I'm not doing any good. I have to be doing something to help with him. Now, again, she's not saying I am doing something to help with him. She's saying I have to be doing something to help with him, but not that she's actually doing those things. And she says, and this is 3-4 words, to help with him, that make me pause for thought. Number one, let's go with that last word, him. This is about a 10-minute interview that I've analysed, and I've just pulled together some of the most interesting parts for you to look at. But I don't think in this 10-minute interview once she refers to Trenton by name. That would show some real closeness there. Trenton, we call people by names, by first names when we are close to them. Maybe not all the time. So if we do sometimes talk about him or her, it doesn't mean we hate them or we've got some distance from them. But she doesn't use Trenton's name once in this interview, as far as I could find out. It's just help with him. And look at that help. It's not help finding him. It's not help finding what happened to him, finding out where he is, or anything like that. It's help with him, which is unexpected. It's not the words we would expect the mother desperately searching for her 2-year-old son to use. I have to be doing everything to help with him. Then she's asked the most direct question of the lot. So what are we going to see here? Is she going to give us a direct answer? Did you have anything to do with? And Melinda interrupts. Now, this is always a bad sign. When someone interrupts a question, it means they're ready to go with the answer. They're not actually listening to the question and not waiting to see how the question all pans out so they can give an honest, thoughtful, seen through answer to the question. They're ready because it's really important to them to get out the answer that they want. It doesn't mean it's a lie. It just means they really have something that they want to say. And when she's asked, did you have anything to do with? She says, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now listen, this is a yes and no question. Did you have anything to do with, I presume, Trenton's disappearance is how that's going to end. There are only 2 possible truthful answers to that question. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. We're going to hear no, I didn't, because she's not going to sit and incriminate herself, or maybe she had nothing to do with it. But she doesn't say no there. That's a red flag for deception there. She doesn't just calmly say, no, I did not. It's absolutely not. So it's not just, I didn't. It's absolutely not. And that's persuasive, because absolutely is going beyond not. It's not just no, it's absolutely no. She's trying very hard here to tell us she had nothing to do with it. That's what we can get from that. It's not necessarily proof that she is guilty, but it's an indication that she really wants to persuade us that she had nothing to do with Trenton's disappearance. And she says, I would be sitting here, and I have not pointed a finger at anyone whatsoever. And even after, because I know for a fact we're going to find him. Let's break all of that down. Now, she's mentioned sitting a couple of times now. She remembers sitting in the police station, sitting here doing this interview. She is sitting when she's doing the interview, but sitting and the use of sitting suggests tension in her language. Again, I would expect the mother of a missing child, a missing 2-year-old, to be tense, but I'm sharing something with you. If someone talks about sitting here a lot, that does suggest some tension. Then she's asked, did you have anything to do with it? The answer there is just no, or even absolutely not. Boom. That's all. That was all that is needed to answer the question. And yet she goes extra and says more, which means she wants to really get this out. What comes extra is really important for her to say. And what's extra is, I have not pointed a finger at anyone whatsoever, even after, because I know for a fact we're going to find him. Why is it important for her to say she hasn't pointed a finger at anyone whatsoever? Is that because the fingers are being pointed at her and she thinks that's unfair because she's not pointing the fingers elsewhere? Is it some sort of veiled threat that if people keep pointing the fingers at me, I'm going to be pointing the finger at you? Leave me alone. Don't know. But she says, I know for a fact we're going to find him. Again, really worrying turn of phrase. It's not that he's going to come home. He's going to be returned home. It's not even we're going to find where he is, which would suggest he is there in the present tense. It's we're going to find him. Find things. You do that with inert objects, not really things that are alive. But yeah, her logic is off there as well, because in all of that, did you have anything to do with it? Absolutely not. I would be sitting here. I've not pointed the finger at anyone. And even after, I know we're going to find him. Just because he's found doesn't mean she doesn't have anything to do with it. So the logic there is off. It's a really big question to ask someone when all the fingers are pointing at them, and she does not pass the test for a truthful answer there at all. She then says, even afterwards, I really don't care about the people involved. I don't know. I really don't care about the people involved. That's interesting. Because at this point in time, they've done something to her son, or have their son, these people involved, but she doesn't care about them. And she tells us what she doesn't care about. She doesn't tell us what she does care about, which would be her son. She just tells us that she doesn't care about these people involved. Is this just a really strange statement in the negative? Is that where her focus is? Or is that the fact that she may be involved and is looking internally for absolution for what has happened, and that she doesn't care about the people involved? But the interviewer has to ask the question, you just want him back, because she has not said once in this interview that she wants her son back safe and sound. She hasn't said that. So the interviewer has to ask her the question, you just want him back? And she says, absolutely. Not yes. Again, it's a question that can be answered yes or no. And she just says, absolutely, which is a convincing, persuasive word. It's not just yes, I do. It's I really, really do. So in that section there, the big questions are asked, and for me, she does not pass the test. The language used there is extremely concerning, that she is not giving a very reliable denial to the question, did you have anything to do with the disappearance of Trenton? Let's get some more from Melinda.
What's your leading theory? What do you think happened?
I don't know. I know that after I found him missing, I took it very personally, because I am doing this on my own. Which being single, it was, fine. Everything was going great. But just the fact of, well, maybe when we were, I just checked on him, not even like 2 hours before that. Maybe it should have been like an hour or something, or maybe I should have, done something else, or and things keep going through your head, and it just keeps getting worse with time.
But you never think somebody's going to come into your house and take your child. I mean, that's just so...
I know, because you're supposed to be safe at home. I haven't even been staying there. I've been staying with family or friends or anything that I can to not be alone.
Was anything else of his missing? A favorite stuffed animal or a favorite toy or anything that he took around all the time?
Not when he was gone. The police had come in and taken different things for his scent and whatnot, but other than that, there wasn't anything that I knew of that was missing.
Did he have a favorite toy or a favorite stuffed animal or something?
He didn't have anything that he would cry if you took away, but when he went to bed, he would cuddle with, he had actually a brown stuffed dog that the police actually took, but he would love that thing.
Quite a long answer there from Melinda. What's your leading theory is the question. What do you think happened? And we have a 7-second pause. So that suggests to me that she does not have a leading theory formed, because she doesn't answer very quickly, or she does have a leading theory and she doesn't want to share it. So she's thinking of what it is that she should say that will answer this question. And after 7 seconds, the best she can come up with is, I don't know. I don't know. 7 seconds of thinking, what's your leading theory, to get I don't know. She says, I know that after I found him missing, I took it very personally, because I'm doing this on my own, which being single, it was, fine. So she brings up the concept of being single and doing this on her own. I think there is some issues going on there. Very obvious that being single, maybe having been left by the father. I don't know. Maybe the circumstances of the split are very important to her. Maybe very rancorous split or something like that. But when she's asked about the theory and what happened to her son, who's been missing, who's just disappeared from her house in the story that she tells, what she talks about is being single. That's the very first thing she does. She uses the phrase, after I found him missing. So she, in ordering there, it's not after he went missing, that would have Trenton at the start of this thing. The most important person in a missing 2-year-old case is the missing person, but the first person she talks about is herself. I found him missing. And that's interesting that she found him missing. It's not that after he went missing, after someone took him. She's using the concept there that she found him missing. So does that suggest potentially that this is a story she's telling, and the part of it is that, well, there, I found him missing. That was the point. I found him missing, even though I know that something else happened. I just know that in the story I've got to tell everyone, I found him missing. It's not that he is missing, which would be hell more active. I took it very personally, is what she said. She's joining herself up here with taking the fact that the baby went personally. Is she trying to throw some shade on the father here? Is that what's going on? That she's trying to say, like, well, look, I'm single, I'm doing this all on my own. I took it very personally. Is she trying to throw some shade on her ex, Trenton's dad there? I don't know what's going on there, but it's strange that when she's asked your theory and what happened, she talks about being single. Then she says being single was fine, everything was going great. But just the fact of, well, maybe when we were, I just checked on him, not even like 2 hours before that. Maybe it should have been like an hour or something. Or maybe I should have, done something else or. Very, very confused going on there. I just checked on him, not even like 2 hours before that. Again, we've just got this sense of her doing something to him here. It's not that he was there 2 hours before that. He was fine 2 hours before that. It's I checked on him 2 hours before that. And then she says, maybe I should have, done something else. Again, is this thought process leaking out? It does seem like she's saying maybe I should have checked more regularly. Certainly no regrets stated that she didn't check more regularly on her son there. Just maybe I should have, done something else. And again, that's quite vague. It's not saying checked on him more regularly. It's just doing something else. And she says, and keep things... and things keep going through your head, and it just keeps getting worse with time. She doesn't tell us what's going through her head. It's things going through your head that she's talking about. She's not really letting us in on her thought process there. Now, remember the question that was asked, what's your leading theory? What do you think happened? And look at how she answers. A 7-second pause. She says, I don't know. She talks about being single. She says everything was going great, but she checked on him 2 hours before. Maybe she should have checked like more often, and things keep going through your head. It just keeps getting worse with time. The question was, what's your leading theory? And we got no answer to that question whatsoever. The interviewer says to her, but you never think somebody's going to come into your house and take your child. I mean, that's just so... And she says, I know, because you're supposed to be safe at home. I haven't even been staying there. I've been staying with family or friends or anything that I can to not be alone. So we've got the sense of singleness again and isolation here. She's definitely very big on that concept in her head, that while her child is missing, she feels very alone. Why is that? But again, her concern is for herself here. Her concern is that she's scared to go home, so she's been staying with family and her friends. Anything I can do not to be alone. But no mention there, no concern for Trenton missing, presumed abducted. Anything could have happened to him. She does not seem to have any worry or any concern about Trenton himself. She's asked, was anything else of his missing? A favourite stuffed animal or favourite toy or anything he took around all the time? And here I think we have a really truthful answer from Melinda, so it's interesting to look at. Not when he was gone. The police had come and taken different things for his scent and whatnot, but other than that, there wasn't anything that I knew of that was missing. I can really understand that compared to some of the other word salads type things that she's spoken about. No, there was nothing else missing. The police had come and taken different things for his scent. Other than that, there wasn't anything else missing. It makes a lot of sense. Now, did the next one catch you out? because the interviewer says, did he have a favourite toy or a favourite stuffed animal or something? And Melinda talks in the past tense about Trenton. Very often, a red flag that the person talking realises or thinks or assumes that the person they're talking about is dead when they talk about them in the past tense. And she says, he didn't have anything that he would cry if you took it away, but when he went to bed, he would cuddle with, he actually had a brown stuffed dog that the police actually took, but he would love that thing. Past tense, he didn't have anything that he would cry if you took away, but when he went to bed, he would cuddle with, he actually had a brown stuffed dog that the police took, but he would love that thing. Now that is all in the past tense and would be a bit of a red flag had the question not been in the past tense. Did he have a favourite toy or favourite stuffed animal or something? So therefore, look, it's a bit worrying, but it's not a massive red flag because the question was put in the past tense as well. It's not, does he have a favourite toy? If she'd answered that question in the past tense, I really would be firing off the red flags there. So we've come to some of that. What have we got there? Real noticing that she is focusing on being single and being alone, and she's not answering the questions. Again, if you want something that really concerns me, it's the fact that she did not answer the question about what is your leading theory as to what happened. She did not directly deal with that at all, which means either she doesn't have one or she's hiding what she thinks is the most obvious thing that happened to Trenton. Coming up, things get even hotter for Melinda when she goes on the Nancy Grace Show. Do you ever feel like you're not hearing the full story, which is kind of what I feel like we're seeing in this episode? Well, you're right, it is happening all the time, and not just in true crime, but all around us. So I'm here to give you the key to seeing deeper, because this is about hearing the world with new ears, and I'm on a mission to share this with as many people as possible. So if you want to unlock that secret, then subscribe to this channel, follow it if you can, join the movement. Dive into the archives as well. I have so many episodes on missing children similar to this one for you to explore in the archives. There's a treasure trove of cases waiting to be explored. And do you know someone who needs this skill in their life, someone who deserves to hear the truth? Then please hit the like button, share this, recommend it to them, pass it on, because every click, every share, it fuels the fire and allows me to dig deeper, analyze further, and bring this life-changing skill to even more people. I regularly hear from grateful audience members who've navigated tricky situations in their life using the listening skills they've learned on this channel. So your like, your share, your recommendation could help someone like that. It's a great gift to give. Let's do this together. Let's go back to Melinda's words.
Tell me about him. Tell me about Trenton. What's he like? What's his personality like?
Very friendly, very outgoing. Thank God he was so easy growing up with me. We were just getting him to potty training. He was talking and saying words, and his personality, he would make you laugh when you really needed it. I don't know.
So we've got her talking about Trenton here again and describing, well, the question is, tell me about him, tell me about Trenton, what's he like? And you'll notice this time the question is in the present tense. What is he like? What's his personality like? And she says very friendly, very outgoing. Now, I notice she doesn't say who is very friendly and very outgoing there. She's missing some pronouns here, which makes me think this is a bit of a stock answer. Just a how do I talk nicely about someone answer. So it's not he is very friendly, he's very outgoing. It's just very friendly, very outgoing. Thank God he was so easy growing up with me. We were just getting him to potty training. He was talking and saying words, and his personality, he would make you laugh when you really needed it. I don't know. Have you spotted the past tense there? She's talking about Trenton in the past tense, not what we expect when we hear someone talking about a person who is living. So thank God he was so easy growing up with me. Now that's all right in the past tense because that is about the past. He was so easy when he was growing up. He's 2 now. But then the past tense kicks in. That worries me. We were getting him to potty training implies it's not happening anymore. He was talking. That implies talking is not happening anymore. He would make you laugh when you really needed it. Again, implying that this is not happening anymore. And then she says, I don't know. Very strange way of answering from a mother about what is your child like, finishing off there with I don't know. Now that, again, is a data point that really concerns me, because now Melinda is talking about Trenton in the past tense. Let's listen to the last clip from that interview.
Have they polygraphed you?
No, they haven't.
Anything you want to add? I mean, can you tell us about Trenton's personality? I mean, what's he like? Is he lots of energy or kind of quiet or?
No, he's very outgoing. He can go into a room of people that he doesn't even know and just, start getting everyone going and everything. And he loves coming here. I'm trying to not, look over there. But no, he absolutely loves the outdoors, loves, getting out and doing things and meeting people, loves playing with kids too. Absolutely.
What do you think happened here? You think somebody came through that window? Or?
Well, I mean, that's the only way that they could have. It was obviously tampered with. I was sitting right out in the living room. And there really is no other. We've gone over things so many times.
Can you walk me through what happened when you went in there, when you went to check on him?
It's just the same thing that the police are saying with all of it. So.
You just noticed him gone and noticed the window, or?
Yes.
Okay, so the very first question there is really revealing, and will become more revealing as we look at the Nancy Grace interview still to come. She is asked, have they polygraphed you? And she says, no, they haven't. Now, that is a very short answer. It's a yes-no question. Have they polygraphed you? There are two possible answers. Yes, they have. No, they haven't. And she gives one of them. No, they haven't. It's very short. It's very succinct. I believe this. I believe she hasn't been polygraphed. And this is what a truthful answer looks like. Simplicity reveals, complexity conceals, as we will see when we look at the Nancy Grace interview. But this is what Melinda looks like when she's telling the truth. It's short. It's to the point. It directly deals with the question that she's asked. She's then asked, anything you want to add? Can you tell us about Trenton's personality? I mean, what's he like? Now, the interviewer has already asked this question. I think she wants to get something more out of it, potentially for a clip for the news that's short and concise, but really means something. She maybe feels that she hasn't had a lot from Melinda here. Is he lots of energy or kind of quiet? And he says, no, he's very outgoing. He can go into a room of people that he doesn't even know and just, start getting everyone going and everything. And he loves coming here. So you'll notice she's now talking about Trenton in the present tense, which is what we would expect if you think someone is alive. He can go into a room. He loves coming here. She says, I'm trying not to, look over there, but no, he absolutely loves the outdoors, loves, getting out and doing things and meeting people, loves playing with kids too. Now, I do wonder if there is something suspicious going on here. Trenton loves the outdoors. Does she know right now that Trenton is outdoors? Is this her trying to bring some kind of peace to herself, saying that Trenton loves the outdoors, i.e., I'm trying to pacify myself and say that he is happy now. He's outdoors and he loves the outdoors. She's then asked, what do you think happened here? And this is the second time we've seen her being asked, what do you think is going on? Do you think somebody came through that window? And once more, she just gives us a really woolly answer to what do you think went on. She says, well, I mean, that's the only way that they could have. It was obviously tampered with. I was sitting right out in the living room. Now, that obviously word is a convincer. It's don't, ask if the window was not tampered with. It was obviously tampered with. If you doubt this, then there is something wrong with you. The window was obviously tampered with. She could have just stated very plainly, like she did with the polygraph, it was tampered with. But she wants to convince us that this window was tampered with by saying it was obviously tampered with. She says there really is no other. We've gone over things so many times, i.e., I've said this lots of times. There's nothing else to say. I'm not going to go into any detail for you. Why is that? I mean, does she want to save some time here in this interview? Is she desperate to get somewhere? Or is she wanting to say, I've told this story so many times, I don't want to tell it again. Why? Well, telling fictitious stories is stressful, causes us discomfort. We do not like doing it, even if we're doing it to sort of save our lives. It's still uncomfortable telling a lie. So is that what is going on here? She's then asked, can you walk me through what happened when you went in there, when you went to check on him? She says, it's just the same thing that the police are saying with all of it. So you just noticed him gone and noticed the window. And she says, yes. So once more, she is refusing to elaborate here. It's just the same thing the police are saying with all of it. Now, notice she's not saying it's the truth. She's saying it's what the police are saying, which is different from this is a truth. Liars often look to consistency, to say the same story's been told over and over and over again, therefore it must be true. Is that what we're seeing here? Is she saying it's the same thing that's been said again and again and again, so believe it, it is the truth? But she's not elaborating. She's the mother of a 2-year-old boy who is missing, and she's refusing to elaborate on what happened when she found him missing, even though that could be helpful in raising the awareness of the case, or any clues or anything like that. But she is refusing to do that. So I've got to say, got some big suspicions going on here about Melinda just from that interview. So let's go on to the Nancy Grace interview now, which happened shortly after the one that we've just looked at. As often with Nancy Grace interviews, a whole load of people involved, including Trenton's dad, but we're just going to look at what Melinda said in the main in this interview. Nancy's first question to Melinda is, I want to talk to you about that screen. When you first went into the room, was the window still open? And Melinda's answer is, well, it had only been cracked about 3 or 4 inches to begin with, and second of all, when I walked in there, that's obviously not the first thing I was looking for. That's a really, really complicated answer to a really simple question. Was the window still open? Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. She doesn't say that again. So she's given some really simple questions and comes back with some very complex answers. This one starts with, well. Well, at the start of an answer is a signal that we're not going to hear what we expected. I'm going to give you an explanation, not an answer. Well, it had only been cracked about 3 or 4 inches to begin with. Now, I think what she's trying to say here is when she put Trenton to bed, the window was open slightly to air the room or something like that. I think that's where the to begin with comes in. But that means if something happened to begin with, something subsequently happened afterwards. Otherwise, we wouldn't use the to begin with words. Second of all, when I walked in there, that's obviously not the first thing I was looking for. Now, that's interesting. What was the first thing you were looking for when you went in there? Because when you go in to check on your child, you're seeing if they're okay. You're seeing if they're asleep. But you're not looking for something when you go in. But that's how she's described this trip to the room. And obviously, again, pops up. So this is her convincing us. I'm not going to give you an answer to this because obviously I was doing something different. Strange wording there from Melinda. Nancy Grace says, of course. Melinda says, as soon as I saw him not in the bed, I was looking throughout the room and in the closet. So she's moved on from the window. What's going on here? Is it that she has a prepared story to tell? That fictitious story about how she went into the room and found out that Trenton wasn't there? Is that what's going on here? Because what she's done is move far away from talking about the window, which is what she was asked, and potentially gone into more of a prepared story that she is ready to tell. Nancy Grace asks, was he sleepy that night? Was he ready to go to bed or did he resist? And she says, Melinda says, no, extremely. He was tired. We had had a long day out. Now, extremely tired. That's just turning the feelings up a lot to say he was extremely tired. Not just he was tired. Not necessarily an indication of deception, but it suggests she's trying to paint us a persuasive picture to believe how tired he was. She says, we had had a long day out. Is this a resume statement? A resume statement, it was when someone is under pressure, accused of bad things, they want to point out how good a person they are. With a resume statement, we had had a long day out. What a great mom she is. She had had a long day out with Trenton. She's a good mom. She had a long day out with him. She couldn't possibly have done anything suspicious that night. That would be the purpose of a resume statement. And she says, my son is not a light sleeper whatsoever. You can move him from room to room and he'll still be asleep. She doesn't say she can move him from room to room or I've moved him from room to room and he's still asleep. She just tells us what you can do. You can move him from room to room and he'll still be asleep. And on top of that, he is very friendly and very outgoing to everyone. He can walk into a room full of strangers and make friends with people. And so, I mean, if he met someone new, he would start playing with them. He wouldn't cry. He never had tantrums or anything. So again, we've moved far away from the question. The question was he tired that night? And suddenly we're getting this personality test results for Trenton about how he can make friends with strangers and how if some stranger did come, he wouldn't cry, i.e. Melinda would not be alerted because when a stranger came through his bedroom window, the 2-year-old boy was just going to play with him. Really? I don't believe that for a second. We have and so in the middle there as well. So we're getting some and so storytelling, which is not just events answering a question. It's giving us explanations for why things are happening. So Melinda seems very big into not just telling us what happened, giving us events here, but explaining things, giving us reasons why things could have happened here. She's really gone extra there when she's been asked about how tired he was. We've got a personality test result. Nancy Grace says, where were you sitting in relation to his bedroom? Now, can you work out from Melinda's answer where she was sitting in relation to the bedroom? Melinda says, the bedroom is connected to the hallway. The living room is, gosh, if you picture the apartment like a U-shape, the front door would be at the bottom of the U-shape, the living room would be at the top left-hand corner, his bedroom would be, I guess you'd say, catty corner. And Nancy Grace says, got it, which is charitable, I think, Nancy, because I don't get it. I mean, like, what is she saying? Is she saying far away? Is she saying close by? We don't know. Melinda just once more has gone to a very complex answer for a very simple question. Okay, now Nancy Grace says, so you were a hallway essentially away from him and the TV was going. And Melinda then says, quite a ways, right? The TV's at the other end of the living room, right? Where was she? Nancy Grace asks, when did you realise he was missing? And Melinda says, it was after the first movie that we watched. We'd actually planned on two. We went back and we asked what time we had called the officers and they said, I believe it was 9:14. So it was between that time period, I'd say. Again, very complex answer to a very simple question. After the first movie, we checked, it was 9:14 when we called the police. It was just after 9 o'clock. Those would all be really simple answers. Instead, we get a story again, and we get a story about we'd planned to watch two movies, i.e. we only watched one movie, which is one of her important priorities here. And this is why I really think that Melinda has a story prepared in her head that she wants to get out, which is why her answers don't quite match the questions, because what she is doing is going into storytelling mode to tell this prepared story, things that she's got off pat that she wants to say. So when she's asked a question, she makes the question fit the answer that she has prepared to give. Then we carry on with Nancy Grace saying, about 2.25 hours is all that passed since you had checked on him. Now, it's my understanding you thought he was hiding and you even started looking for him. Melinda says, yes, he had just learned how to open up the closet door that morning. And I thought that it was, really a moment, like a Kodak moment there. So that was the first place that I looked. The window, the rest of the room, there's nothing there for him to hide or anything. So I didn't even think about it. And he's not one to go under the bed or anything like that. So again, complex answer to a simple question. It's my understanding you thought he was hiding and you started looking for him. Yeah, I was searching the house from top to bottom because, he liked hiding or he just started moving and we didn't know where we were going to find him. None of that comes out. We get, again, this talk of a Kodak moment, which is a very strange, light, friendly term given the gravity of the situation. But again, is this kind of like one of those resume statements? It was a lovely family. We had so many Kodak moments and that's what I thought we were going to have here. She talks about the window again. The window is really prime in her mind. Now, it would be if the screen was cut there, the window was open and she thought that the child had left through the window. Instead, she just talks about where he was going to hide. Grace asks, now, when did you notice the screen on the window slashed? Melinda says, well, when? After I checked out his room, I checked the bathroom and my room, which are right down the hallway, which he could have gotten to without me seeing him. So again, I've got this sense there's this pre-prepared story ready to go. When did you notice the screen in the window slashed? A simple answer would be, after I'd searched the house, I went back to his bedroom and saw it then. Instead, she's going to tell us where she searched individually, although it's really not important. After I checked out his room, I checked out the bathroom and my room, which are right down the hallway. She seems to be taking us through steps of a story that she has planned in advance. Melinda then goes on to say, like I say, he doesn't ever do this kind of thing, so it would have been extremely unusual. But when you're in a panic, so this is her talking about you again, not about her. She's not giving us her personal experience here. When you're in a panic, you want to check every possible thing there is. And that word check is interesting. Again, is she just saying that she went through a checklist of things that she had to do? When I came back up the hallway, I looked in his room again. There was actually a picture that had been on the windowsill that had fallen. And that's why I looked to the window, because there's curtains and everything there, like, so it's not like, it's just open to the world. So we're going through, I think, a prepared story here, and actually a picture that had fallen. Why is she telling us it actually fell? Why don't she just tell us it fell? Nancy Grace says, Melinda, the window. You said when you put him to bed, the window was up about 3 inches. What position was the window when you saw it again? And Melinda does not have an answer to that. What position was the window when you saw it again? Thinking time is needed. So she says, gosh. Then there's some crosstalk, and then Melinda continues. The window was open, and the screen. I know they have taken measurements. It was cut up to about 10 inches on one of the sides. And that screen, it's not a hardwire screen where you're going to cut it, but if you touch it, it is very soft. It's very old because it's been in that apartment complex. And so storytelling again. For them to say, well, we think that, he's fine and all this kind of other stuff. You're not going to get hurt on that thing. Letting in there, I think that she thinks that the people who have Trenton had Trenton's best interests at heart. Now, taking Trenton from his bedroom would not be having his best interests at heart, but this person thinks that if he goes out the window, he's not going to get hurt on that thing. So in her theory, when she has not been very good at sharing theories, but in a theory she shares here, is that the person or the people that did this to Trenton have Trenton's best interests at heart. They care for him. Very interesting. Okay. Here comes an interesting question. Remember the polygraph question from the interview that we looked at previously? Have you taken a polygraph? No, I haven't, is what she said. Nancy Grace asks the same question. Out to Melinda Duckett. This is Trenton's mom. Melinda, have you taken a polygraph? And Melinda says, I've spoken to the investigators and Joshua is on the outside loop of it. And as far as the investigative techniques are concerned with polygraph, stress test, physical searches, interviews, etc., my family and I have fully cooperated with law enforcement and... Nancy Grace is about to cut her off. But what did I say? Simplicity reveals complexity conceals. So in the interview, she said, no, I haven't taken a polygraph. I believe that. It was very simple. It was very straightforward. Here, has she taken a polygraph? Well, she doesn't say yes or no. And as I said at the time, there are only 2 possible answers. But here she doesn't. She's covering something up. She's covering something up with complexity. She probably hasn't taken a polygraph, because if she had, she would say yes. Or maybe she has taken a polygraph and failed it and she does not want to get into that conversation. Whatever it is, she doesn't want to talk about polygraphs. So she goes on this huge story about speaking to investigators and investigative techniques and all sorts of investigative techniques to divert from the answer to that question. Interestingly, she says, my family and I have fully cooperated with law enforcement. My family and I, interesting, the family comes first, she comes second. Now we've got some persuasive language. It's fully cooperated with local law enforcement. Why not just cooperated with law enforcement? Why that fully in there? And note, she says local law enforcement. Now, she's been very interesting about whether she's only dealing with the FBI or whether the police are actually credible or not credible. She switches as she talks about this, but she's only fully cooperated with local law enforcement. Look, Nancy Grace is having none of this and says, have you taken a polygraph? Melinda carries on with the answers she was giving, the federal and everything. And locally, they don't have enough necessary experience. And that's why the FBI was called in to begin with. And I've been instructed only to speak with them, with their unit, and anything that they release to the media or public is up to them. Now, as far as just diversion, it's just complexity concealing something about this polygraph. Nancy Grace says, have you taken a polygraph? Melinda just carries on with her words, or anything. Like I said, I mean, anything that I do or anything is in cooperation with them. I'm doing everything they want me to. But as far as details and everything, I mean, I'm leaving everything up to them. An interesting thing there, which is Melinda saying, again, I'm not going to give you any details. I'm giving details that someone else can do the details. I'm not going to do the details. Why would that be? Well, again, if she's gone into this prepared story that she has where she's got certain facts locked down that she wants to get across. But when we do that, when someone asks us a question that's out of the left field or that we haven't covered off in our planning, we just divert. We talk about something else. And here, she is not going to go into any more details. Nancy tries one last time. Have you taken a polygraph? I've done everything they've asked me to, is Melinda's reply. So we've got, I would say she hasn't done a polygraph. She's refused to take a polygraph, but she might have done a polygraph and does not want to talk about the results. Compare what Melinda does there to the question that Trenton's father, Josh, is asked. Nancy Grace says to Josh Duckett, have you taken a polygraph? There are two possible answers, yes, no. And he says, yes. Nancy Grace says, did you pass it? And Josh says, they didn't say whether you pass or fail, but the response was favourable, they said. Now, interesting, they don't say whether I passed or failed, would be more close and reassuring, but Josh says they don't say whether you pass or fail, or they didn't say whether you pass or fail, but the response was favourable, they said. So when he's asked, did he do a polygraph, he is very, very straightforward with his answer. So that's the Nancy Grace interview. Sadly, the day after that, Melinda decided she didn't want to be here, and she left a couple of notes behind, which I will look at because they're not quite right for here, but I will look at in a member's special or a subscriber on Spotify's special. So keep a look out for them. So Melinda Duckett, I mean, what do I think about Melinda? Look, there was just some real interesting things missing from all the interviews we looked at. No concern for Trenton at all, just none. Her 2-year-old son was missing at the time, and she expressed no concern for Trenton at all, no desire to find out what had happened to him either in those interviews that we saw. What we did see from her was a strong desire to step us through her story, the story that she had ready. So even when she was asked questions that didn't quite relate to what happened, she went back to this story that she wanted to go through step by step by step, and a huge, huge focus on herself. So listen, did Melinda Duckett have anything to do with Trenton going missing? I've got to say yes. I've got to say, overwhelmingly, the data points inside the interviews that I've looked at say that her statements are extremely unreliable. And why would that be if she had nothing to do with the disappearance of her son? Thank you, Lisa, for suggesting that. If you entered the competition, thank you for so much for your suggestions. I've taken a note of every single suggestion that was there, and hopefully we'll get to some of them in future episodes of Never a Truer Word. NeverATruerWord.com is the website. There you will find a whole load more podcasts and videos, including a lot on missing children and the parents of missing children, if you want to decode what they're saying. NeverATruerWord.com is the website. You can also get in touch on the socials there. Do let me know what you think of Melinda's words. You can let me know in the comments here if you can, or contact on the socials. Like I say, you can find all of those listed at neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.